It's not overly sweet whatsoever. Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today we're going to be trying out another recipe from Claire Saffitz's cookbook Dessert Person. These are her salted Halva Blondies. So I've never really been a big blondie fan. I always find them to be much too sweet and kind of lacking in flavor complexity. I mean, really, they're brownies, but without the delicious cocoa powder, so kind of what's the point? This recipe, though, incorporates both the halva as well as tahini, so I think that's going to shift the flavor from overly sweet and bland to super savory and flavorful. So I'm really excited to try this one out today. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. Here in a medium glass bowl, I've got my all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to add the kosher salt as well as the baking powder, and we'll whisk that to get it incorporated. Perfect. So we'll set this aside and move on to the wet ingredients. Here in a large heat-proof bowl, I've got 1 stick of unsalted butter. To that, we're going to add in the tahini, along with some white chocolate. Generally, I'm not really a fan of white chocolate chips because, much like blondies, I find them to be flavorless and overly sweet. However, these guitarred white chocolate chips are actually quite tasty. They're not as sweet as the traditional grocery store variety white chocolate chips. Normally in a baking situation like this, I would say don't use chips, use a bar of chocolate and chop it up. However, white chocolate is already such an abomination that I don't think having a bar versus chips is really going to make too much of a difference. So I'm happy to use a really high quality premium white chocolate chip in this application. So Claire wants us to melt this over a double boiler. However, that's kind of time consuming and it's so much faster to do in the microwave. So what I'm going to do is microwave this on half power for about 2.5 minutes, stopping to stir every 20 to 30 seconds just to ensure that we're getting even heating throughout. So after 2 minutes over half power, we are nearly fully melted. I'm going to let the residual heat just finish melting up those last little chocolate chip fragments. Now the recipe does note that you want to let this mixture cool down slightly. However, since we stopped it before the chocolate was fully melted to let the residual heat do the work, our mixture truly isn't that hot right now. So I think we're safe to move on to the next step. So I'm adding in my light brown sugar and we'll whisk this to get it incorporated. And Claire notes that the mixture may look a little bit grainy and may even have fat separating out, so don't panic if yours looks like that. And you can see the texture here. Mine is not split or separated, however, it is extremely grainy looking. So now we need to add in the eggs and the vanilla extract. Those eggs are going to pull this together and make it look nice and creamy and smooth. So I've got some good quality vanilla extract going in, a full tablespoon, which is quite a lot, along with our whole eggs and egg yolks. And we're going to whisk this vigorously until the mixture looks thick, smooth, and glossy and starts to pull away from the edges of the bowl. So after about 45 seconds, my mixture is starting to pull away from the edge while whisking, and you can see the texture here. It's really, really thick. It's very smooth. It doesn't look grainy whatsoever. And now we're ready to finish the batter. So all at once, I'm pouring in the prepared dry ingredients, and then we'll fold this together to get it evenly combined. I think this might be the first time I'm actually using an appropriately sized bowl for mixing, so I guess I'll count this recipe as a win already. So we are fully incorporated, no traces of flour remaining, and we've got a nice thick batter on our hands. Now we're ready to add in the halva. So I am using this pistachio flavor. So I'm just breaking the halva up into probably teaspoon-sized pieces. I don't want it to be too small because we are going to fold this through, and I'm concerned that if the pieces are too small, they're just going to disintegrate into the mixture. With all the halva crumbled into the mixture, I'm just going to fold this one more time to get the halva evenly distributed. All right, perfect. So the batter is all done. We're ready to bake. I've got an 8x8 metal pan lined with aluminum foil and greased with butter, and we'll just scrape the prepared batter into the pan. And then using my small offset spatula, I'm just going to scoot the batter around to get a nice even layer. So I think that looks pretty good, and now I'm going to top off with the sesame seeds, and just sprinkling these across in an even layer. And the final finishing touch is just a little bit of flaky salt. So I'm going to pop this into the preheated 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Just like with brownies, you don't want to over-bake these, so the edges should look set, but the center should still be a little bit wobbly. If you do a toothpick test, the toothpick should come out with some moist crumbs attached to it. So our blondies baked for exactly 20 minutes. You can see they're starting to pull away from the edge a little bit. When I shake it, may not show up on camera, there's a little bit of a wobble in the center, but I can tell the edges are set. So this smells incredible, but before we can eat it, we need to let it cool down to room temperature. So I'm going to let this hang out in the pan on a wire rack for close to an hour, and I will see you all when we're ready to give this a taste. And this is the end result. So you can see we got a really nice color on the bottom as well as the sides here. The one thing I'm a little bit concerned about is this texture difference. So you can see this is looking quite baked, this is looking quite gooey. That said, this is very similar to what Claire's looked like in the book, so I'm not overly concerned about this. The other pleasant surprise here is that I can see little bits and pieces of pistachio from the halva inside of the blondie, so that makes me feel good that we didn't break it up too much while we were folding it through. The aroma here is absolutely incredible. It smells so nutty and toasty, and this looks delicious. So let's break it open and see. All right, so it's very firm, feeling gooey. Ooh, that's a nice texture. Ooh, and we broke into a piece of halva, so you can see there's the texture contrast there. So let's give this a taste. Burst of salt in a good way. Wow, it is so toasty and nutty, kind of peanut buttery adjacent. It's really nice. I bit into that halva, and what I really like is the texture contrast. So we've got a super gooey blondie. We've got that crispy halva that has a really distinct texture. And then since I used pistachio, I had a crunch of pistachio as well. So there's a lot of texture going on, which is really good, not to mention sesame seeds and flaky salt on the top. So it is a sensation overload, but just maybe up to the limit. It's not too much going on. It's really quite nice. As expected, this is over here in the savory world. It's not overly sweet whatsoever. So I said I wasn't a blondie fan going in, and I feel like this recipe maybe is converting me to a blondie fan, though I don't think I can make a blanket approval on all blondies. This blondie passes the test, but I think I'll take it on a case-by-case basis. I don't want to say I'm a blondie fan just yet, but this one is absolutely delicious. If you're making this, I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.